Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 8 on DraftKings is here, and I'm going to take a first look at a tournament lineup that we're going to build using the very simple and straightforward strategies that we have developed in my How to Win on DraftKings video, taking a look at the previous 3 years of results, seeing how we can overweight the field on the things that end up in the top 100 and top 500 lineups more often than anything else. This is a training exercise. This is not a lineup that I'm going to say on Monday is definitely going to be viable on Sunday. It's more about the process that we take. And this week, I'm going to be breaking some rules in terms of kind of how we build and rules that we have for specific things, because there's nothing that's really hard and fast in daily fantasy lineup building for tournaments. There's things that you can do to put you better on the right side of the math, but you also have to know, when can I break those rules to be a little bit more in a position for differentiation or to optimize my lineup. And we're going to take a look at a few of those this time. So thank you guys for being here. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, and let's go.
He's a legend.
So as always, we're going to start at quarterback because that's the way I've started building lineups now. When I was building cash game lineups, the quarterback would be one of the last things that I'd fill in, right? You want to get as much volume as you can from your running backs. You want to get as many targets as you can from your wide receivers in your cash game lineups, right? It's just about stacking all of those sorts of things. And then you find a quarterback who's got a good matchup, is in a good spot, maybe gives you an opportunity, because the difference in the band of scoring between the quarterbacks is so much more narrow, right? Like the 10th best quarterback, the best quarterback might have like 33 points on a slate, and the 10th best quarterback might have like 22 points. The band is much tighter, right? In terms of quarterback scoring. So like, you don't need to look at that first when it comes to cash games. For tournaments, however, I want to take a look at my stack first and work outward from there. So Josh Allen against Miami, one of the teams on this slate that has a really high team total. Kind of a lower scoring slate, at least from how it looks here, right? The Dolphins has a 49 total. The Bills favored by 13.5. We know how much they throw the ball on a week in, week out basis. And we know how good Josh Allen is, not just with his legs, where he's added 2 touchdowns this season, but multiple touchdowns in every game since week 1, and 3 or more in 3 of the last 5. Efficiency, not volume, is what leads to quarterback scoring. 3 games, and it would be those 3+ touchdown games, where he has ended up with well over 30 fantasy points. 35 plus is where you get into that tournament winning day. I'm sure we're going to have some arguments this week that you can't play Josh Allen in tournaments because they're going to win by a whole bunch, and therefore stacks and double stacks in Josh Allen are not going to work. How's that working out for people with Stafford doubles and those Tom Brady doubles, which basically get you to the top of the list every single week? Josh Allen doubles are specifically in play once again this week. Matthew Stafford, same situation against Houston. The Rams projected to win by a lot, just like every week. 14.5 point favorites. Total in this game is 45.5. They've got another team total above 30 points. If they score 4+ touchdowns, there is a very good chance that Matthew Stafford has 2 to 5 touchdown passes in this game. It's going to be very difficult for them to get there without it, just based on the way that this offense is built. The time that he had 1 touchdown pass so far this year was against Seattle. They scored 26. He did throw for 365 in that one. Has proven that he can sustain 2 pass catchers every game. And the key is, don't think about can they, I don't think this quarterback can have 2 guys that catch for a lot of ball. If you think that quarterback's going to be viable that week, they most certainly can. Joe Burrow, guy's been an absolute stud so far this year, throwing for 17 touchdowns in their first 7 games. 8% of his throws have gone for touchdowns this year after a 3% year. We projected he was going to regress to the mean. He has regressed to the mean and beyond it, to now a point where, like, next season we're probably going to write a whole lot of articles that like regression is going to hit him again. He's going to come back to like 5% and throw for less touchdowns next year than he will this year. But been extremely efficient, especially with the addition of Jamar Chase. I think there are two quarterback double stacks. They're going to make people throw up in their mouths a little bit, but are extremely viable this week. One is Trevor Lawrence doubles. DJ Chark out. We've got a condensed group of people that he is going to be throwing to. He has not had a game yet since week 1 against Houston where he's thrown for multiple touchdowns. He has shown prowess with his legs. Not a running quarterback, but more of a pocket plus mobile quarterback is Trevor Lawrence. Has ability with his legs, and he is a threat to run. But really what I like about him most is how much they're challenging down the field, added to the small amount of targets that he's got. And these Trevor Lawrence double stacks are not going to come at a very high price. They're going against Seattle, who's given up tons of points on DK to opposing quarterbacks and pass catchers. And the other one is Teddy Bridgewater. Same situation for the Washington football team, who has given up a lot of points to DraftKings quarterbacks, or on DraftKings, 2 quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends. And he's got, again, a very condensed target tree. If Jerry Jeudy comes back, it basically means Sutton, Jeudy, Fant going to get, let's say, 65+% of the targets, with a couple of other guys mixing in, running backs, and maybe Tim Patrick or somebody like that, or Hinton. But like, really, his touchdown passes are going to go to 2 guys, and getting access to them and 1 guy coming back on Washington. It's a pretty solid way to go at quarterback for not a lot of money, right? You're going to get a cheap double stack with a bring back. I don't know if you're going to differentiate yet because it's Monday, but the guy that I want to go with for this, because I do want to break the rules, is Jalen Hurts. I don't care when he gets his fantasy points. I just care that he gets his fantasy points. He is contributing a ton on the ground. We like that. 13 carries last week, 10 carries the week before, 9, 8, 9. A massive amount of points coming on the ground for him. But 3 games in the last 5 with multiple touchdown passes. 2 of those games, he got 300 yards passing. I don't care if they lose the game. I don't care if they win the game. I don't care if Jalen Hurts gets points from halfway through the 3rd quarter till there's triple zeros on the clock at the end of the 4th, or if he stacks them up in the first half. I just care that he gets them. And he has been doing that, and doing it rather well, averaging 26 fantasy points on the year. Certainly has the possibility that he could throw for 300+ yards, 2 to 3 touchdowns, run for 50, and put 1 in on the ground. And he gets Detroit this week. Dome game, fast track, guys that we could stack him with. Looking at who we want to stack him with, and looking at that game for stacks and bringbacks really quickly. I said really quickly, if I could just find the freaking game. The first guy that I want to stack him with, let's just look at Detroit, right? I have no freaking idea which one of Detroit's pass catchers is going to have 6 or more targets. Maybe it's KALIF Raymond. Game log watchers will say, well, look, he only had the 1 bad game against Minnesota, and then he's had 3 games where he's had over 12.8 DraftKings points, but then he had this 2 game, and then he had this one against Cincinnati. He's only had 1 game where he scored a touchdown this year out of all of them. He's got 3 games where he's had 4 or less targets. Who knows? Yes, thinning out the herd with Terrell the Gazelle and Quintez Cephas being on IR helps, but then you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had 3 weeks where he had 8, 8, and 7 targets, and then last week against the Rams, 0 targets. Like I said, I have no idea where the ball is going to go among these guys. I do know that the ball is going to go to DeAndre Swift. Basically getting the same deployment that Alvin Kamara has typically gotten in years past. 12 to 15 carries on the ground, getting a good amount of inside the 5 and inside the 10 touches, and 6 or more targets every week except week 2 against Green Bay. Really good floor, really high ceiling. We've finally seen his price tag come up, which if he was 7% in the Millionaire Maker last week against the Rams at 6K, I can't see him being too high this week at 7,100, although there could be some people trying to play whack-a-mole. We'll monitor the percent throughout the week. He's going to be my primary bring back for this game. Looking at who we're going to stack him with, all the targets are going to DEVONTA. So my primary stack is going to be DEVONTA Smith. 9 targets. 9 targets, 10 targets. Tampa Bay is tough. What are you going to do? Right? He has gotten a heavy dose of all the usage, and the usage that he's gotten, and when you consider red zone targets and end zone targets, as I do, as a part of expected fantasy points, DeVonta Smith should have way more than 1 touchdown this season. There is regression coming for him in a positive way as he keeps getting, or if he keeps getting the usage that he's getting and deployed in the way that the Eagles are deploying. I think he's had 4 touchdowns called back so far this year. So DeVonta Smith at 5,500 again against Detroit in Jalen Hurts stack looks fantastic to me. If you want to go with Swift Smith secondaries, fine. Rager, Watkins, Ward, all not getting enough usage, to warrant being a part of a stack. It's really just kind of a dice roll with any one of these guys, not getting enough usage in the game at all. The other player that's a pass catcher that I believe is going to be popular, and viable based on the price is Dallas Goedert at 4,700. The cop out would be to just use Dallas Goedert in this spot, but I said I want to break the rules. Miles Sanders got carted off last weekend against Las Vegas, and he was playing a lot and being given the ball a ton, and he's been good when they've handed him the ball this year. Was averaging 5 yards a carry with a long of 9, so very consistent, was being utilized in the passing game, and then he got hurt. After he left this game, he played 13 snaps out of the 68 that the Eagles played. In the remaining 55 snaps, Kenny Gainwell played 34 of them, with Boston Scott coming in for a little bit. Kenny Gainwell garnered, say that 5 times fast, garnered 8 targets last game, assuming that Miles Sanders is out in this spot. Kenneth Gainwell does 2 things for us here to allow us to differentiate this lineup from where the field's going to go. If people play Jalen Hurts, they're going to stack him with one or both of Smith or Goddard. They're probably going to play Swift coming back, but Gainwell, because of the targets that he projects to get in the projected absence of Miles Sanders. If Miles Sanders is back, this is not a viable play. But if Miles Sanders is out this week, Gainwell is going to be my one of my double stack candidates here. I will include him in Jalen Hurts double stacks, and all of my lineups are going to be double stacked. That is just the way that it's going to go, with very few exceptions. I'm just going to play Cooper KUPP because he's freaking good. And then I'm going to move on to my next stack. That's about all the analysis I need. I want exposure to teams that have a 30-point expected total, right? Like, you want to have access to the games that have all that total. But Houston's offense is bad. And if Mills Mafia is still going to be the quarterback, that's one thing. There's Tyrod Taylor expected to come back to practice. If Tyrod Taylor is coming back, I do like Cooks a little bit better, but I don't think he's a must. And you can use Cooper KUPP as a one-off, averaging 28.9 DraftKings points, double-digit targets in every single game. You're paying up for floor and ceiling, but in full PPR with bonuses, and assuming that he's had the bonus 4 times and over 90 yards, 2 more. His only bad game was when he caught 5 of 13 targets against Atlanta. High floor, high ceiling candidate. Cooper KUPP is going to be my one-off in this spot. Let's hit another one-off and plug in a defense before I get to my secondary stack. Tight ends, Kyle Pitts, finally, as advertised, once they finally started throwing in the ball consistently, 9, 10, 8 targets, catching a ton of them, lining them up out wide and showing that he can finally beat, or has learned enough at this level to actually utilize the great athleticism and size that he has to be able to beat defensive backs and corners when lined up in the slot and wide. Kyle Pitts, a premium tight end, now finally at a premium price with 25 plus points in the last 2 games. Noah Fant going to continue to get peppered with targets as long as Albert O is out, playing all of the snaps for Dallas. Mike Gesicki, as long as all of the wide receivers remain out for Miami, Mike Gesicki going to continue to get peppered with targets. 2 straight 20-point games, only 1 dud in the last 5 against Tampa Bay. Imagine that, not putting up points against Tampa Bay, the best team probably in the league. Somebody's going to be in chat, no, this other team's better. Okay, Tampa Bay is the defending champions, and they're still freaking amazing. Hawkinson could be a viable bring back in that spot, but as I said, yo-yos up and downs. Be careful. with, you know, 11 9 targets. And look, he had 11 and 9 targets the last 2 games. Then he followed up with a 2 and 8 and a 3. Look, he's had 11 and 9 targets each of the last 2 games. Not saying he's gonna have 2 targets, I'm saying that he's highly variant. But again, good matchup, at least in terms of DVP. There is one really soft spot. We saw it last week with Darren Waller being out, creating a vacuum of targets, creating a vacuum and a lot of available vacated targets for one island of Foster Moreau. Assuming that Dawson Knox broke his hand. And if you're going to be a pass catching tight end, not having a broken hand seems like it would be something that would help you do your job. The random tight end touchdown still exists from Josh Allen pretty much every week, except it's been less random because there's been one tight end playing all the snaps. In the absence of Knox, Tommy Sweeney has played all the snaps in that last Island game. He's priced at $2,900. This is only a play. This is only a play to me if Knox misses. If Knox misses, give me Sweeney Todd. As for my defense, let's just plug one in back. Okay, there. We'll worry about defense later in the week as we get more, more clarity. So I'm going to want a bring back, a player with a bring back. I mentioned that I like some certain other games that I think possibly could put us in a spot, where we could shoot out. I mentioned Jacksonville. We have, again, you could pay up to get Jones. He's been the favored target. This would not be a show from somebody in the daily fantasy space if we did not mention Laviska Shenault. He's 4,700. I kind of have to. I'm contractually obligated to play Laviska Shenault in this spot as a DFS content creator. So I'm just going to plug him in. I mentioned how much I do like Trevor Lawrence double stacks this week. That means that players are going to catch the ball from him. If you want to play somebody else at 4,700 down, go ahead. We have Sweeney Todd, right? I know it's Tommy, but it is Halloween, so we're going to go with Sweeney Todd here. Leaving us a flex spot. That game does project for a lot of points. That game does have a high total or a high-ish total, and the players on the other side should theoretically be chasing. So Miami has one Myles Gaskin, now with Malcolm Brown going to IR, should see a higher percentage of snaps and has been very good in the passing game. For Miami ran the ball well last week against Atlanta, but that's kind of Atlanta. They're going to have to continue to throw the ball. 5 to 10 carries seems more along the lines of what reality is going to be for Myles Gaskin moving forward. Maybe he sees 12, but he's going to continue to see a ton of targets in this spot. GESICKI, Waddle, also the other 2 guys with Fuller missing time. We'll have to monitor Parker going forward. Right now, I prefer Jalen Waddle with the amount of targets being funneled his way. And we're talking about floor plus upside. Jalen Waddle's speed and game-breaking ability has not really been that much on display this year, considering his ADOT has been 5. That's average depth of target. They're not targeting him further from the line of scrimmage like we would want him to, but it's because they don't have anybody. They have a bad offensive line, so all the targets have to come close to the line. They have no good wide receivers that have been healthy, so everything has to be close to the offensive or close to the line of scrimmage in order to get them the ball. But considering that his averages have averaged out to 11, 15, 12, he's doing an awful lot after the catch. And if he can bust a big one, we have a possibility for a long touchdown from him every single week. The floor ceiling combination is more than enough here for me. I got 400 on the table. You can upgrade the defense, upgrade anything else that you want. But there's my double stack with the 2 running backs, not only from the same game, but a quarterback paired with a running back. It can be done as long as there's enough targets to sustain it. We have our bring back stack with Sweeney and Waddle trying to attack floor and ceiling from a high totaled game, and Laviska and Cooper KUPP as one-offs to give us, again, 2 other floor ceiling combos. So thank you guys for watching. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.